we are live on Facebook. We are live here with Leadership Now. And before I introduce the man, the myth, and the legend, I just want to thank you all for showing up. For those of you who are new to the Leadership Now community, the reason why we started this was to truly make a difference, to bring thought leaders, role models, mentors, teachers into this community and create hope and give us tips and tools. We have business owners, we have people who've been furloughed, we have retired, we have just individuals, people who just want to learn. And so we get excited to bring different people that we look at as role models and mentors and teachers to teach us. And we're excited to have Frank today. Before we get into Frank though, next week, and Frank's like waiting. I said, Frank, we have 1 hour. We're going to have to cap you at 1 hour. Next week, we have Dean Rash, and he is going to be on at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So we're going to go back to 9 next week. Dean Rash is amazing. He is going to be talking on the undying drive for life. And Dean has such a story. He is a cancer survivor. He is one of the longest bone marrow transplant survivors. He's a survivor of sexual abuse, and he goes out and he talks to high school auditorium kids. He talks to business owners, and his whole thing is, what is your purpose? How do I help you get there? Because it doesn't matter what story we all have stuff. But when we use it to level up, to truly take us to that next level, we can be that change maker. And Dean Rash is absolutely a champion of change. So you will want to join us for that. So now I am excited to introduce Frank Harrison, and I'm doing something a little different. So my introduction is going to be through a short video. So here we go.
Fourth video.
Oh, hang on a second. Hang on. See, it's technology. Let's see. Okay, ready? There's no one like Frank Harrison. He truly is the man, the myth, and the legend. He's recently retired from the general air conditioning and plumbing. He is a water ski champion. He is the president of Desert Cancer Foundation. He gives the best hugs. He constantly pushes himself to climb to new heights, even to this day. He gives back. He lives giver's gain. He constantly makes a difference. Oh, he's the dancing king. He celebrates life fully in his Moho with his wife Charlene and their dogs, and spends as much time with his grandbabies as he can. Welcome, Frank Harrison.
Wow.
So how's that for an introduction?
That was awesome. Thank you so much. You know, that I love the dancing part of it, as you know.
You know, when I was looking for this morning what to do, I had all these ideas for you. And you know, Frank, you really are, when I say the man, the myth, and the legend, you are, and for those of you who are watching, you probably have no idea, but Frank really is the reason why we do what we do today. You gave us wings to fly. You know, when you look at just over your life and you talk about living giver's gain, I met you, I was thinking about 2004. 2004 I met you. And I just watched this heart of compassion and giving, it just keeps growing and growing more and more. And so I came across that video and I'm like, I have to show Frank in his glory of dancing. So you are almost 77 years old.
Couple more weeks, I'll be 77.
Holy cow.
And,
so how do you stay so young?
Water skiing, being active, you know, keeping on the move. You know, I've always been a workaholic, and I've always been I've got to be involved and do things, and I truly believe that God has given me a gift. He's kept me alive. You know, Marion, I've got some really good genes because my father lived to be 96, and he was a Major League Baseball scout till he was 90 years old for the Seattle Mariners. and still doing big league games back then. And he didn't go downhill. His mind stayed strong. He didn't go downhill until he retired. And he was so embarrassed because he had to use a cane. And I'd take him, I'd drive in once a month and take him to lunch. And he want to lean on me. He didn't want anybody to see him have the cane, things like that. But just staying active and staying around people. And something, I hang with a lot of younger people. I don't know anybody my age. I'm the oldest guy in town.
Yeah, but you act like you're the youngest guy in town.
Well, my wife's 12 years younger than me, so she keeps me in line.
That's right.
And most of the folks that I hang with, most of my skiing crowd are all in their, early 60s, mid 60s. And so obviously I'm going to keep up with them. And so it's good. I'm so blessed. And I say that because, you get older, you might have a few aches and pains, but I am totally healthy and I can do just about anything. I ride my bike. I rode my bike 5 miles this morning. When we get done with this, I'm looking out my window. The water is glassy. I'm going to take a ski ride, and I've been helping do honeydews in between this morning, keep mama happy. So it all works.
Right. So there's so many places we can go. Like you and I were talking, I said, there's so many places we can go on this and we only have an hour. You chose the topic when I said, what do you want to talk about? And you said, I want to talk about the power of giving back and making a difference. Why did you choose that topic?
Well, Mary, I get so much back personally, maybe it's selfish, but personally by helping other people, seeing people grow, knowing the people, and all the years that I've known you, all the people that I have supported going to leadership classes, and whether they work for me or don't work for me anymore, I've improved their lives. And I can't tell you how many emails I get from young people thanking me for different things I've done in their life. And it's all I've done is open the door. They have to do it themselves. I can't do it. I just give them the opportunity. And to me, that is so powerful. And, I use examples because I just see people, I was in business for 45 years and I retired a little over 2 years ago. It hasn't been easy. It hasn't been easy for me because I loved what I was doing. But I also know that I'm on the last quarter of life and I want to make the most out of it. And as you know, Charlene and I love to travel in our motorhome. We go to Florida, we go skiing, a lot of places around the United States and everything. So, just being around people. I mean, I still go into the office and I pump people up. I love that. That's, I come in now, unfortunately, I'm a hugger. And I can't hug right now, as you know.
And you give the best hugs.
And thank you. And I just want to take people and just hug them. And, I can remember having a number, probably about 400 people come to our company one time. And I had one of the larger companies in the United States stop and say, I've never been in an organization where you can feel it when you come to, you can feel the culture, you can feel how people are, because people love coming to work. People like the environment. It doesn't mean every day was perfect, but something, we embrace each other, we understood each other. And to me, that's what life's about. And I'm just believing and investing in my team as what's made me successful. But, I learned so much more when back 15 so years ago. I always thought I was doing pretty good. And I was nominated to go to a leadership class, as you know, and this was before Driven was in business. So
that's okay.
that changed my life, and it was so powerful that I came back and I went I wanted to share it with people, and I started with my key employees. And it's funny because, as you know, you get out on that skinny branch, it scares people. And so people were hiding in the bathroom, afraid I was going to ask them to go.
Well, you never can say no to Frank.
But once I had people start going, I saw my company change and become so much stronger. I saw the people around me. I just saw Rusty pop up on there with an email, and I just want to say, he's a person I'm so proud of, and I feel like I've been able to touch he and Steph in their lives, and you know, he said mentor, I just say our friendship is so powerful. And he was too busy to go to leadership the first time. So I sent his wife, and guess what? He went next. He came back, and so that part's been good, you know. But I look back, even before all the opportunities to learn everything, is that, you know, it hasn't always been easy. I'm on the good end of life, but you know, I started my company, my first company out of my backyard. And what had happened, I had been a superintendent for a company. When I got out of the Army, I learned the trade. I went through the apprenticeship, learned the trade, and I became superintendent for a company. He was an alcoholic, and I'd come in the morning at 6 o'clock, and he'd be passed out in his car, and I'd go sober him up. And he didn't care about his business. And I did a lot of soul searching. I said, you know something, the worst I can do is fall on my face. So I went out and refinanced my house. At that time, my house was worth $50,000 back in the 70s. And I got $15,000 out of it. And I went and got my contractor's license, but I couldn't afford a truck and a car. So I got rid of my car and got a work truck. Now, I was single back then. So what was funny, I loved to go dancing. So I'd go out dancing. If I met a cute girl, I'd have to go borrow somebody's car to take them out on a date, because they weren't going to go in my work truck.
You're going in your work truck, right?
But you know, I look back, and probably one of the hardest things that ever happened to me is I worked so hard to build my first company, and it was a union company, and everybody was non-union, and I was doing new construction and you know, air conditioning, and I couldn't compete, so I opened up another company, a non-union company, and I was going to continue running the union company. Well, long story short, the union came after me. They forced me into bankruptcy. I lost a lot, but it made me a stronger person. And I came back and built the next company, and was so proud of it. And you know, and then the third company, and along the way I bought different companies, but the third company, General, when I started out, it was a $500,000 company, and we grew it up. When I left, there was 90 employees there, and I'm so proud of that. And I know that things are changing, and they will change. And of course, the pandemic has created a lot of changes. But I go back, and my beliefs and everything, I have some real success stories that I think that, and I'll start with the young man that I hired out of high school, 17 years old, sweeping floors back at General Air Conditioning, and he was a hard worker. He was a quick learner, and unfortunately he screwed up, and I had to fire him. But I saw quality in him. I didn't want to let it go up, so I made a deal with him. I said, "You're fired. In 1 year from now, if you want to come back here, you're welcome to come back, and I'll give you a second chance." Mm-hmm. Well, he came back, and I watched him, kind of like a son. He was working at a tire place, and I'd drive by to make sure he was at work there. So anyhow, he came back, and he worked his way up from install to maintenance to service technician to comfort advisor, and now he owns one half of General Air Conditioning. Wow! And I'm very proud of him. He's just an amazing young man. So, yeah. So that's one of my I feel success stories.
So we do what we're taught. Who gave you a second chance? Can you hear me?
Who gave me a second chance? I would say my dad. And I will tell you, because I was not the easiest. I was the oldest, and I tested everything, and I ran away from home when I was in high school. I lived in my car. I just and at the time, you know, I thought young punk, I guess, and I went out with the girl across the street from my parents' house, but I parked my car on another street and climbed over the fence so my parents wouldn't see me when I'd come to the house. And one day my little brother comes over and says, "Dad would like to see you. Would you come over and talk to Dad?" And my dad sat me down, and he says, "I understand." And we worked everything out. And he was a strong worker at the time. he got me in his field. When I got out of high school, I went to trade school on welding first, and then I went into the Army. And my dad was a welder at that time. So he gave me a chance, and he gave me the work ethics, and I believe that that's paid off. I've always been a hard worker, and it's the success comes from that. And so I would say my dad, he died 4 years ago on Father's Day. We just celebrated his 4th year of passing away. But the beautiful part of that, he was ready to go up and see my mom. He's 96 years old. He says, I want to be with mom. And he says, I don't have a purpose here anymore. And so, that part worked out. But I'll share, another little story too. I have another fellow that I'm so proud of that worked for me, and it was a young installer, and he got caught on drugs, and he failed a drug test a couple of times, and I had to let him go. But there was something in that man that I saw, and so he would come back, and he went to rehab, and he came back just to keep me posted. He'd sit with me, say, I'm not asking for a job, Frank. I'm not ready because I'm not going to fail you again. And he turned around, and it took like 2.5 years, and he kept reporting in to me. And then he said when he was ready. Well, he turned out, he married his wife in rehab. She's a school teacher, the most fantastic young lady. They have 2 children. They just had their 2nd child now. And he is, he doesn't work for General anymore, but he and I stay in contact, and I'm so proud of him because he turned his life around. And he been to bowl, he was master grad, he's done everything, and I just feel like that's been such a big part of it. And to me, that's the success of life. I just feel like, wow, that's so good. It feels good because he's a young guy, and he's going to raise his children and so on. For the next 40 years, he's going to have kids around him, and it's so neat to see that.
You so live giver's gain, and I've seen it just over all the years that I've known you, and just your heart to give second chances. Your heart, it's like you don't just have a bleeding heart, you literally have a bleeding heart. Yet at the same time, you know how to set boundaries. And when I look at you and just who you are and how you live your life, have you ever had where you've given to someone where it's ever come back to bite you in the butt?
Yeah, sure I have. And I will tell you, people used to say, why do you invest so much? Why do you spend money on your employees? Why do you, I said, I'm a firm believer that you're never going to have 100% success. But if you get 80, 85% success, that's so satisfying. And yes, I've had people come back and say this, that, I've sent them off to stuff that has ruined their life and this and that. And I'm sitting there, wait a minute. I gave you the opportunity. You didn't have to go. I wanted you to go to better your life. And same way. And there's many different personalities, Mary, and I do my best to attempt to understand the good side and the bad side of people, because I think that I've always surrounded myself in business with people who were smarter than me, I felt, in different fields. I'm the people person, I'm the mediator, I can bring people together, but I know this person's got this talent, this person's got that talent, and that's what makes a successful company. That's what makes life successful. You can't know everything and do everything yourself. It doesn't work that way.
When I think about you, the word "the bridge" comes to my mind, because you know how to take a little bit of this and you bridge this, and it's not the or in life. And a prime example, so we talk about the company that you went through the leadership course with, and that's where we met because I was working for them. And you were the one that when Eric and I started Driven Leadership, you said, we're going to continue this relationship. It's not about an or in life. And what I love about you, because this is truly you across the board, it is you are so loyal to your relationships, and you don't choose one or the other. You choose the relationship you want, and you make that the absolute best that you can. And you do this, and then you take whatever you can and you build this relationship, but you don't leave someone hanging. And I
Yeah.
look at, and I'll say it too, you know, because I absolutely love rapport. And I love Michael Saletta and all the different leadership courses and companies and people that you've used. It's a beautiful blend, but it is absolutely the relationship. It's puzzle pieces, you know, it's not one or the other. And that's just like how you live at the General, how you live. You were the manager for the U.S. water ski elite team, and you had to plug and play with relationships there. And I just want to acknowledge you, Frank, just for how you show up, because it's difficult for people. It's difficult for people to be that, because in this world, and I posted, it's the Thomas Rhett song, you know, in a world full of hate, be a light. Oh my gosh, I get emotional, because so many times we see in black and white and we miss the color. And Frank, you bring color to this life. And I just want to thank you for that.
No, thank you. I'm gonna, you know, as you mentioned earlier, but I have to tell you, such a big part of my life now is being involved with cancer, and that all started about 14 years ago with Barbara Duffy, and I think you've met Barbara. I sent her to one of the classes, and Barb had breast cancer at 40 years old, and she and I worked. She was my marketing gal, and we worked very closely together. And she was in Kansas City after she had her double mastectomy and gone to her chemo, and I worked with her and worked the whole time, and I learned so much about cancer. And so when she was well enough, I asked her to come on an airplane and come and talk to my company, because nobody thinks they can get cancer. And so got her out here, and I asked her when she came up, I blocked out 2 hours one morning. I says, would you take your wig off, please? And I want them to see real life and share your story about your two children, your 14 and your 12-year-old, and your husband, and what you thought if you were going to die, and so on. And it was a very emotional and very enlightening for the whole company, because just about everybody in there had been touched by somebody with cancer. They may not have had it, but they, you know, and so from there, I felt the need for General Air Conditioning and Frank Harrison to give back even more. I've always supported different charities and everything, but Barbara and I went out and we interviewed different cancer foundations, and we found the one that really hit home, Desert Cancer Foundation in the Coachella Valley. It's a small organization, and it helps the less fortunate, the people that don't have much income. But the neatest thing about it is all the money raised in the Coachella Valley stays in the Coachella Valley. And the other neat thing is that for every dollar we spend at Eisenhower or Desert Regional Hospital, we get $10 worth of oncology. That's what the doctors in the hospital do for us. So, and as I tell people, that, yeah, we have a pandemic going, but guess what? Cancer doesn't stop no matter what. People die every day. And that's really affected us right now. We have just the most wonderful executive director. She's young, 35 years old. She's just a workaholic. I have so much respect for her, and she's working 6 days a week. And right now, we can't have any fundraisers. You know, you can't have gatherings. And we've been having a lot of meetings on. We have a big breast cancer walk that I chaired for 6 years, and it's grown to 3,000 people. And the City of Palm Desert just came out yesterday and said they're not making any decisions. So we're looking at going, you know, coming up with something that where we can do it online and at least raise some money. But last year we had 3,000 people walking. That's a lot of money we raised. And but I really believe that we can do well. I mean, you know, obviously we don't have the golf tournaments, the tennis tournaments, and everything we have out here raise money. But it's a great. That's my biggest challenge right now, is working with everybody, working with the cities who all of a sudden are laying people off, and they've always given us grants, because I go to Eisenhower, and now we do it Zoom, obviously, but I go to Eisenhower and Desert Regional once a month at each place, and we go over candidates for cancer and that we do now. You know, there's a lot of great cancer foundations out there, but we take care of the people. They can't make over $20,000 a year, and there are a lot of people out there. There are a lot of people who still don't have insurance. I mean, there's a young lady that was a guard at one of the country clubs making $10 an hour, didn't have any insurance. She applied. She had breast cancer. We were able to take care of her. Those are the satisfying things that that really fulfill me now is helping others and being there to know that you're helping people, and it's really important, you know.
So knowing you retired and you can't retire, like you literally can't retire. I remember Charlene was like, how am I going to get my husband to retire? I need to get in this Moho and just travel. And I know there's a lot of people, you know, that I've come across in my life when they go into that age of a different season where it's time to step away from their job, from their role, from, you know, whether it's an owner of a company, you have to have purpose, because without purpose, you lose the will to live and the will to fight. So your greatest purpose, and we, you know, what are the things that absolutely, now you talked about water skiing and the Cancer Foundation, what else helps you just stay alive?
Well, my grandbaby, and I have to share, you know, I mean, I know you've seen pictures of him and everything, but he's 10 months old, and he is the best little grandbaby. And I can, you know, I know everybody says their baby's the best, but I'll share something that, you know, I've never had children of my own. I've been a stepfather, or rent-a-pop, as I call myself. I've got 2 beautiful daughters that I, you know, I raised one from 5 years old, and then I have 2 stepsons in this marriage. Yes, and so I've never really actually been around a baby being born or anything, and I waited 76 years to have a first, and it was very emotional for me because we took Janelle to the hospital. Her mother couldn't be there. Skip was at work, and we took her to the hospital, and she says she's ready, and they live over in the track next door to us here, and so we took her in, and she ended up not having the baby that day. That next morning we came back, and I mean, she stayed in the hospital, and she allowed me to stay in a room when that baby was born, and that is the most beautiful sight. I mean, to see what she was carrying for 9 months and see it come down the ramp and watch Skip cut the cord. I sat there and bawled. I mean, I did, because it's a first. It took me 76 years to see something like that. And I'm sure there's people listening and no big deal, or that's ugly or whatever, but I'll never forget that. And that little boy means so much to me. I get him on FaceTime, and he starts waving at me on FaceTime. I talked to him yesterday, and he's waving at me, and he's laughing on it, and it's beautiful. We just took him on a 2-week motorhome trip, and he was the best little baby around. We took him to Florida. So that's fulfilled my life a lot. And Charlene and I babysit every chance we can now. Now that Janelle's not working, it's not as much. But when she was working, we took the baby 3 days a week, and her mom would take it too. And she got, unfortunately, back a while back, she heard one of her coworkers at the dentist office she worked at got exposed, and so then we had the baby that day. So we did not give the baby back. We told you got to go get tested. We ended up with the baby for 9 days. Now, being a grandpa is one thing. You're supposed to be able to hand them back. This was a test. Frank Harrison learned how to change stinky diapers.
Yeah, they're not like your dogs too, where you can go outside and go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Oh, nope. And you hold them up and say, oh, you smell poopy. Oh. But that's been very, very rewarding for me. And, you know, I've watched Skip grow and he's such an amazing father, and Janelle, and it's just been wonderful. That has filled a big void. I still do go into general. I have a little consulting agreement. It's more to see the people than anything, because I just care so much for them, and even the people that aren't there anymore. Mary, I make contact with and keep that relationship going. So it's good.
So what's the legacy that you want to leave?
Oh, a person that cares and wants to help and give back. I mean, it's just me. It's just natural. My wife gets mad at me because you give all the time. But I care. And you can't take things with you. I don't, you know, I give stuff away, and she, why are you giving that away? I don't need it. but well, you could sell it. I don't want to sell it. I want people to give people, you know, help them out that way. So it just, you know, it's a another situation I had. You know, a couple of years ago, I was given uh, a very nice award by the Ronald McDonald House called "A Few Good Men,"
Hmm.
and they invited me down to the Ronald McDonald House in Loma Linda for a tour. I went back, I went on a tour, and it's so neat because the Children's Hospital is right across the way there at Loma Linda. And so the parents and the families can live in there when their children have cancer and stuff. And so I got the tour, and then there's like a big living room upstairs. And they said, "Would you like to meet one of the families that's staying here?" And I said, "Well, of course." I sat in there, and it was a mother. And she came up, and it was a young lady, probably, I don't know, maybe 35 or so. And we're sitting there talking. I said, "Well, about 70% of the folks at the Ronald McDonald House come from the Coachella Valley." I didn't realize it until a few years ago, and that's why I started supporting it. And so then I'm sitting with this young lady, and she says, I said, "Well, where are you from? What part of the valley?" She says, "Oh, I'm not from the valley." I said, "Well, where are you from?" She said, "Well, up by Barstow." And I says, "Up by Barstow? Where at?" She said, "Well, it's a little town. You wouldn't know it." I said, "Well, try me." So, well, it's a town called Newberry Springs. It sent chills down my spine. Nobody knew anything about me having been in Newberry Springs at that time for probably 45 years, having a place there, building a lake. And I just sat there. God did this for a purpose. God put me in this room to be with this young lady. And we have built a relationship. I've been able to help her. Her daughter is in remission right now, but she was 17 years old in high school, lost all her hair, and she had to go back for more treatments. And after Jennifer's got out of from staying at the Ronald McDonald House, and so she never had enough money. She worked at like McDonald's or something. Didn't make much money. She didn't have enough money to pay for gas going back and forth. That's 100 miles each way. So I could help her out with gas. I could help her out doing things. And she needed tires on her car. And I just think, and she lives out. Her husband is manages a McDonald's or a Wendy's or something, and and I don't have any money, and so it's like that just blew me away. And there to have 100 families in that Ronald McDonald House, and this one person comes up to me that afternoon. I'll never forget that.
Yeah, there's no coincidences. That was
No,
designed,
I
destined.
I was able to share that story. We had a fundraising gala that had about 600 people at it, and I was one of the speakers. And I shared that story because that's so powerful, and that just says that God is good. God put me there for a reason, and I feel that way with everything else that's coming. I mean, and if I do get bored, if Rusty's listening to this, I want him to know I'll come and apply as a general manager. He said he'd have an opening for me. I just want to make sure that he pays for my gas back and forth.
That's hilarious. Oh my goodness. Just knowing you and everyone listening, and they can feel your heart. They can just feel this compassion that comes out of you. And the thing, I talk about knowing you and seeing you and going into when you were at the general, talk about the culture. I have never, ever experienced a culture before like yours. From the moment we walked in the door, just the attitude, the energy, the mindset. And even though you give and even though you're compassionate, you also have strong boundaries, strong rules. In fact, I remember when it was meeting time, 7 a.m. in the morning, and if your team wasn't in the room at 7 a.m., the doors closed and they had to sit.
And then you had to come in and explain why you were late.
Right. But so it goes back, and there's one thing to give, and there's another thing also to be an example of the right way of giving, because there's bleeding hearts that give, and we want to serve and we want to save the world. And there's another example where you give and you give and you give, yet you also you want people to rise up and to take action and to own it. And that's where you're at. You will do anything for people who are willing to put skin in the game, for people who are willing to raise their hand and say, "Hey, I need help." And just over and over and over, I've seen that. In fact, there was one lady I'll never forget. And I don't know her name. It's been years ago, but she was one of your second and third chances. Yet she was so hungry for change, so hungry. And there's so many stories, and the people who know you, they go, oh, Frank did this one or this one. There was a teen that you sent to one of our teen classes. She's now at the University of Georgia. And she called me up and said, hey, Frank sent me to this class, and it was like 5 years ago.
Oh.
And just to know your legacy is what she learned because of you. She's now applying within her team.
You know, Mary, I have to give you and the other folks, you, Michael, Eric, and a lot of the folks that I've had the opportunity to learn from, because I'm learning all the time. It's not about just happening. I've learned. You folks have been a great influence on my life, and you keep it that way. I mean, I just, it's such a big part of my life, and it feels so good. And I've been able to, you know, I take it places like I'm on the board of trustees for the Educational Foundation for water skiing down in Florida, and I also am on the selection committee for the Hall of Fame. And you know, a couple of years ago, I was in 2015, I was inducted in the Hall of Fame for water skiing.
So Frank is very humble. He is inducted into the Hall of Fame.
But I was inducted in for what I feel, what we're talking about, helping others. I was inducted. It was not because I'm a good skier. There's elite skiers out there that are amazing. I got to coach them. I got to manage them. You know, I was chairman of the board. I was treasurer. I've given back to my sport because I love my sport so much, and I still give back. You know, and so to see these kids that were on my teams, that now they're in their 30s and they're retired, and when they're nominated for the Hall of Fame, and it's just so rewarding to go up and give them a big hug and say, you earned this, you worked for this, you know. And that's another part in my sport life. I get to do that. And you know, unfortunately this year with everything being canceled, it was sad because I had two really wonderful ladies that were on my team back. You know, I retired from managing US teams in 2011, and they were on prior to that, and they were so rewarding. You have to be retired from skiing for 5 years to be able to be nominated. And so and then it was supposed to be at Disney World, and that's where it's been going on, and obviously it got canceled. So I'm hoping we've been having some online board meetings and hoping we can get something worked out. But I look at all those kids that I had the opportunity, and that's the other reason. How do you keep young? I was around those kids. I would go. I think I shared with you in 9/11, they canceled the Masters and everything, but I had 16 member and a doctor that we were supposed to be over in Italy 2 weeks after they blew up the tower, and I got everybody on the phone. What do you want to do? And I had some independents that were already over there, and you can be an independent, be a world record holder, and still be, and I'm in charge of those too. And so the team voted yes, and they were going to go. So I went over a week ahead of time. The State Department signed 2 people to me to follow me every place I went. I got everything lined out. We could not wear anything with USA on. We turned our jackets inside out and everything. But the most rewarding part was when we had our march, when the opening of the game, just like the Olympics, we're marching down this little village in Rocchetto, Italy, which is at the Italian Alps. And people are hanging out their window cheering for the USA, just cheering. And there we had our USA jackets on, everything. And we got a little girl with a flag in front, walking the Stados Unidos in front of you. And we got out on this soccer field, and before they started all the ceremonies, a little girl walked the whole length of that and handed our team a bouquet of roses and saying, "We love you, USA, and we're so glad you're here." And to me, that, there again, that's something I shared at my Hall of Fame induction, because that's my biggest memory right there of my water skiing.
Wow. And you are and I'm going to brag on you a little bit because you won't do it. It was last year, you won the regionals. You set a world record for the regionals for your age group at 75 years old, almost 76. And then you won the national championship. So, Frank, when I look and I just listen to your whole story, 62, you take a leadership class, right? You're 62. It's never too late to be who you want to be. and just listening to you, it's like this different season in life. So for people who are struggling and people who feel stuck, what would your message be for them?
Oh, I believe first thing, get yourself out of the closet, get an open mind, look at the positive side. You know, I've always been one that looks, no matter how bad it is, I look for that positive side there is, even if it's just a little bit, you can take that and grow the positive side. And if you want to sit around and feel sorry for yourself, you're not going to go anywhere. You have to step out there and make it happen and surround yourself with positive people. To me, that is so powerful. And is when I used to send people to classes, I would turn around and have the whole company, when they came back, I would have a company meeting and have them share the enthusiasm and their learning and and just, you could see the changes, and it motivated everybody, even those that had never been to leadership classes, and they would just get, wow, I want to go, I want to change. And that's how you're reaching out and touching people in a lot of different ways that way.
So if anyone has any questions for Frank or comments, we love to make this interactive. And again, if you're watching Facebook Live, we can't bring you in, but if you're on the Zoom call, put it in the Q&A, and then I'm going to bring you in so that you can talk to Frank directly. And we'll give them a few minutes for that. So Frank, I have a question for you. Do you have any regrets?
Yes. Do I have any regrets? Yes. I lost a marriage because I was a workaholic. My business was more important than my married life. I worked 7 days a week. I wanted to be a success back many years ago when I was younger. I had the fear of failure. Now, obviously, I don't have that fear anymore, but back then I wasn't, I hadn't been enlightened through all these programs and all the things I've learned in life and everything. But I came home, we attempted to work it out, but my business was like, and people say, well, did you have an affair? No, I didn't have an affair. My affair was with my business, and I lived for my business. And if I knew what I knew now, I'd still be married there. But that's hindsight, but that's a lesson learned, and that's some of the things that I tell people. You got to balance a little bit. I was so out of balance back in the 80s. Oh.
And that's the so what now what. That's the lesson learned. And when you're willing to learn the lesson like you are, I mean, look at what's happened since then. Life just starts, right? Life is so worth living.
I just, you learn from your mistakes, Mary. And I'm not saying we don't know. I make more than my share of mistakes, I'm sure. But I am, I have a very strong belief, very active in our church. I'm on the financial committee. I got to be involved. Of course, my wife does all the cooking. She likes that part, but it went for all of
She's a great cook too. She's a great cook.
And, I just look around and you don't know, every day is a blessing. There may not be a tomorrow. And so I do my best to make the best of every day I have. And whether it's seeing my grandbaby, whether it's doing something with Charlene, whether it's water skiing, whether it's going, as you know, my most favorite place is out where Eric goes jumping.
I wish I had that video. Oh my gosh.
I have, for those who don't know, I have a ski lake that I built out on the other side of Barstow, and Eric and Mary came out for the weekend, and Eric, he decided he's going to go out, and I said, I challenged him to go over the ski ramp. Well, he took a fall, and that was
he's not a water skier, and he's not a jumper.
But we had fun, and then, I have met some of the most wonderful people through all these programs, with you and Eric and Michelle is just, and Lou, and I just, all these different people. I think, God, I'm so blessed to be able to be part of their life. And it's kind of like, even though you don't see everybody that often, you're still friends. You're still there. You could walk up, just like when we got on here this morning, it's like we've been together. I mean, it's kind of like, it's just natural. It feels good.
Well, knowing you're such a hugger and just what's going on, and we crave connection, and especially you, Frank, like you're all about connection. So how do you keep the connection going?
Well, you know, something that's interesting. My wife hates Facebook, and there's a lot of people don't like it, but maybe it's because I'm older. I like I put on, we had a ski tournament this last weekend, and I put something on there, and 153 likes. I just looked at the name and say, wow, they're still alive. They're still here. They're this. That means a lot to me. It's not about a popularity contest. It's knowing that they're out there and they're watching you and you're watching them. And you know, and on all the other ones on LinkedIn. I mean, I do a lot of LinkedIn watching you and all the business, because that's more the business side. And it's just that's kind of the way, you know, with all the social media and everything, that it keeps people in contact, whether you like it, whether you don't like it. I mean, when somebody's birthday comes up, or you know, it's interesting. So.
Well, and that leads me to the next thing, because even though your birthday is a month away, you know, there is a you know, the yearly thing that we get to do to sing happy birthday. Oh, wait a second, before I have you do that. So Rusty, hey Rusty, I'm going to bring you in, okay?
I love it.
1 second. Rusty's like, great.
Oh, Rusty is awesome. He is.
He is. Okay, Rusty, you're coming in, so you're gonna have to share your mic and your video camera.
Come on, Rusty.
Hey, it's father and son.
There we are.
There he is. All right.
Got my son there. It was a great interview.
You're doing good, and I, you know, I understand that. I got a wonderful email from your newest employee, you know, from out here, thanking me for exactly what we're talking about here. The fact that he got to go to leadership classes, and that it has made you know, an effect on his life, and I emailed him back and told him you couldn't go to a better place other than he's on the other side of the mountain.
You know, I mean, the nice part about this is you're a giver, and you got to pay for all the classes for him to to come to us.
You know,
I mean, you can definitely tell the way he was, you know, just his demeanor and the training that he had. I mean, he's just a step above most out there. I mean,
you know, Rusty, it's interesting because there's another competitor out there, and I've stayed friends, as much as some people don't think it's right. I've stayed friends with a number of companies out there. And I've helped a number of companies, and I have a lot of you know, employees that don't work for General anymore over there, and they call me or whatever. But and I talk to them, and the compliments I've gotten from 2 different owners, just as you said. I don't know what you did, these folks, but they're different than anybody we've ever had working for us. That is so satisfying, that because you and I, and certainly you've done tons of it too, we affect people's lives in a very special way.
Well, that's truly giver's gain.
Yep.
yeah, and for sure, the way that, you know, I've known Mary also for many years, and, you know, Frank, you sent us, like you were mentioning earlier in the presentation, and I mean, just what it's done for us, and, you know, it's a great feeling. And I mean, how open you were to me to come into your company and just give us everything you got, whatever it was, anything. Here's my price book. Here's my job descriptions, everything. I mean, it was, you know, who I used to work for was, you know, the opposite of you, and you guys were competition, you know, growing up, and then
yeah,
meet you. I mean, it was just a completely different personality. I mean, he taught me a lot too. I mean, I highly respect him as well, but I mean, everything was a secret, and then come to you and you're like, hey, everything's open, what do you want?
But too, that makes our industry a better industry. I mean, you know, and obviously there's a lot of people out there sharing now, you know, with the Einsteins and all this stuff on Facebook, but people are sharing and helping young people. I never had that when I started my business. I made my mistakes because there was nobody to tell me how to do it. I couldn't even read a financial statement when I started, you know, and in the end, that's all I lived by was financial statements. But you know, it's a great industry, and it certainly is. I miss being part of it. So like I said, when you have an opening, I'll be over there. And then,
You know, I mean, we still got that Walmart greeter position that we're looking for.
That's probably where I'll fit in.
You truly are an inspiration.
Thank you. You're a very special person, just like Mary and you know Steph. That you know, we have done so many things together, Mary, as you know, and they are our mom and dad because Stephanie and Rusty, because they keep Charlene and I in line. So we're their kids when we go places.
That's right.
Absolutely. Traveled the world together.
Did you have any questions for Frank, Rusty, or did you just want to make that comment?
I was just making the comment. I mean, what an inspiration. I mean, what a great person in our industry, a great person to know, to hang out with. I mean, all the things that we've done through the years. I mean, really everybody thought we were the father and son sitting in the front row together. So ended up being me being the father, but
keeping Frank in line.
Keep Frank in line. I mean, you know, the bar's closing at the end of the night. It's like, okay, come on, son, I gotta get you to bed.
Yeah. I love it.
So, but I mean, it's been a wonderful.
Yeah.
It has very special relationship and a wonderful one.
This is really cool. I just want to say, I know people who are watching this are like, what are they doing? So we all go back, and with Rusty and Frank, and we owe Driven owes so much for the two of you, especially with Bold, because you guys challenged us and said, when are you going to start Bold? When are you going to do something? And you put people in our first class. And when we said, all right, we're going to do Bold, and you guys were our sidekicks. And
Yep.
Just the support. You talk about giver's gain and the power of just giving back, but it's also the support and encouraging people and sometimes pushing them to step into being their best self. And that's what both of you do. Like that's who both of you are.
Yep.
For sure. Thank you.
It's it's a great environment that we yeah.
Yeah.
One of the great stories for Frank,
good.
if I can, you know, we're at the Frank and I are on Sidekick, and he has to go open the door to let the class in for the first time. And, you know,
That's right.
okay, you know, walk out there, open the door for the people, and, you know, just kind of be stern. Last person in, close the door. And he comes out, hey, everybody, come on in. Holds the door for him, lets them all come in, waiting for the last person. He's the last guy in. It's just who he is. And, you know, Eric's in there just like, we just let him do whatever he wants.
It doesn't matter. It's just Frank. It's just Frank.
Oh, yeah. It was just but,
well, thanks, Rusty.
all right. Thank you.
I'm a kid at heart.
You are. Love you guys.
I love you.
Rusty, thank you so much. You know, dear friend.
Absolutely.
He's going back to attendee. Dylan has a question. So Dylan, I'm actually going to bring you in. Dylan's an HVAC owner as well. Amazing guy from DS Heating and Air.
Yep.
So Dylan, when
Is he
you
on the phone?
he's coming in. So just click your camera and your mic. I'm not sure if you can hear me, Dylan. He's like, I'm probably on the phone right now.
He's still on.
All right, so I'll ask it for him until he comes on. He said, what did you do to add the balance to your work and personal life once you realized how important that was?
I brought in people, as I said earlier, that I believed in, that I trusted, people that could take some of the pressure off for me, and that if I wanted to take a Friday off and have a long weekend, everything was going to run fine. I never had to worry about it. You know, I think one of the most important things that I learned was the palm back in the old days, you know, And everything starts with trust, and then from there, communication and roles and responsibilities. And so if you communicate with people, and you surround yourself with those people, you can feel very confident in taking some time off. Because in the old days, I could never go on trips. I was afraid that the company would fall apart, and that all changed over years. But you have to have key employees that you believe in, and you have to focus and invest in them, care for them. I know you have to be a boss, but I created a family. I created a family of people that cared, people that I truly believe love coming to work. And I tell people when people have left, I said, if you don't enjoy going to work, you spend a big part of your life at work. Why would you keep coming? Why not change? If you can't change it at work, then you need to go change it someplace else. And I've had that discussion in the last couple of years with folks. If everything's different, life changes. And so, but key people, knowing that you can believe and trust in people.
Nice. All right, and I have one more. Oh, he's not on a computer with a mic. He said, thank you for your answer. All right, Jeff, I'm going to bring you in. So you're going to be our last. So when you come in, just hit your mic and the camera.
Jeff Lucas. Wow.
Hey, Frank, how are you?
Wow, that's so awesome. That's cool. I miss you.
How are you?
I am good.
Man, I miss you too. It's great to see you and Rusty.
Oh,
I tell you what, I got all these books back here because of you, Frank. I mean, you've been such a huge part of my life and just going after it. I mean, I got a whole page of notes on just your guys' talk right now today.
Wow.
So it's really, really great to see you.
Well, it's great to see you, and I follow you. And now there's somebody married who we're talking about social media. Jeff and his children and his wife. He's got his beautiful wife, and he goes back and forth between Texas and Mexico. And I haven't seen him in years, but I know what he does.
Great.
And to me, because when he came out here and came to work for me was a very amazing time. There you go, master grad
because of you, Frank. I tell you, my block was to get married, and I found my wife, and we made this great life here. And I give you a ton of credit for that, because it's your leadership and just telling me how to be a strong person and just go after things and go to get it. So
wow.
And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you and thank you for everything that you've done for me in my life.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that so much. You're the best. You had this young guy, he was going to set the world on fire, and then he leaves me.
I remember that. I remember going into his office, and he was you. He's like a mini Frank. He's just hungry to learn, hungry to be his best. And then he was like, and I remember you were so torn, and Frank just gave you the grace and said, I need you to go do what you need to do, what you're designed to do. And Frank leads, and he actually raises leaders up to live even bigger. And you're an example of that, Jeff.
Well, thank you so much. And that's what Frank does. It's like he'll invest in his people, and my life took a different turn. I didn't know which way I was going, but he supported even after all of that. And I had to take off and spread my wings and get out there. But I tell you what, if it wasn't for Frank, I wouldn't be where I am. And, now we own our house down here in Texas and having a great life. And, we have these two beautiful children now. And it's, they say, I can't thank you enough.
Well, I'm proud of you, Jeff. Really proud of you.
Well, it's good to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Great, guys. You too, Rusty. Take it easy. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, and isn't that awesome? I had to bring him on. So I'm gonna launch the feedback poll. It's multiple choice. And Frank, I just want to say thank you for this time. Like, there's so many stories. There's so many more things that we could have dove into, but I know this is the perfect time and perfect what it needed to be. And when I say that you truly are the man, the myth, the legend, when I think of a champion, it's Frank Harrison. And I know that Eric and I owe so much to you. You impact lives in ways that, I mean, I know you know somewhat of what you do, but one day you're going to see fully the impact that you make. And I just want to continue to spread my wings and be like you, because you, the way you live your life, you inspire people to play big and to never settle and to never give up.
Well, thank you, Mary. You guys you're wonderful. I'm so proud of what you're doing here, and the folks you've shared have been so enlightening for me to listen to them, because you learn from everybody. I know Dean's story, so I'm really excited to listen to him next week. I had the opportunity to be around him for a few years there, and leadership programs, and follow him too and see what he's doing. And so anyhow, but this is great, and thank you for allowing me to share. I mean, I might have been boring to a lot of people, but
you're not boring,
but
at all.
I'm honored and I'm proud, and you and Eric are such beautiful friends. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here. Again, for those of you who are listening, next week is Dean Rash with the undying drive for life, and just his story and how he's going to inspire us to tap into that purpose. No matter what mess we have gone through, it doesn't have to define us. So until then, we will see you. Have an amazing week. And again, thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Mary. I love you.
I love you too.